Welcome to Mother Daughter Projects. I'm Steph. 1 year ago, I assembled this trailer from Harbor Freight and made a series of videos on it. And now it's been 1 year, so I want to go ahead and repack the bearings on this trailer. So let's do it.
First, we raised one side of the trailer high enough for the wheels to be off the ground. Once it could spin freely, we were ready to start. I started by removing the lug nuts using a 13/16 socket in my impact wrench. I went ahead and removed the dust cap as it was in the way of my impact wrench. This made quick work of removing the lug nuts, and they can be removed with the wheel in the air as this tool will not make the wheel spin. We followed the same process for both wheels, and I'm going to be cutting between footage from both wheels as I go through the process. Next, I removed the cotter pin using needle nose pliers, and I have new cotter pins to replace these. Next, I unscrewed the castle nut. Once I pulled the hub assembly forward, the flat washer and bearing came out. Do this slowly so it doesn't fall on the ground. I'm removing the hub assembly so I can remove some of the old grease so it's not too goopy inside for the next step. With most of the grease removed, I put the hub assembly back on the axle and place the flat washer and castle nut back on. This is the easiest way to remove the back bearing and grease seal from the hub assembly. To release the back bearing and grease seal, I'm going to forcefully pull the hub assembly forward a few times, and the washer will help push the bearing and seal off the back. And there it is. Sorry this footage is a little blurry, but apparently the camera focused on the fender during this entire time. This is the grease seal, and most people say this will get damaged when repacking the bearings, so I ordered new ones from Amazon. Here are all the parts just as they were coming off of the year-old wheels. Time to clean the old grease off. I first tried to remove it by hand, then I used brake cleaner to help remove the fine grease. Brake cleaner is formulated to remove grease, brake dust, brake fluids, oils, and other contaminants. The bearings were a little bit of a challenge to get clean as there was a lot of small areas where the grease hides, but I took my time and I think I got it all. And here is everything all cleaned up. And this is my pile of greasy, dirty rags. If you notice, I changed my gloves a lot as this is a very messy project. Next, I'm going to add new wheel bearing grease to the bearings and hub assembly. And to my surprise, the grease was red, which was helpful so I could tell the difference from the old grease that was blue. But it did at times look a little bit like a crime scene. I started by pushing the bearing into the grease on my hand to get the grease into all the parts of the bearings. I also added some grease inside the hub assembly. This is the back side, and now I'm placing one of the bearings inside. There are a front and back bearing on each wheel, and both are the same. A quick note, these are the old grease seals from the back of the wheels. The first one I completely broke, and the second one looks like I could probably reuse it, but I already have two new ones ready to go. I placed a new grease seal on the back of the bearing, and to make sure it went in completely straight, I placed a 2x4 on top and tapped it into place. And this is what it should look like. Oh, and I smoothed out that blob of grease. Time to reassemble the wheel. First, I wiped down the axle. Then I made sure to place the wheel assembly nice and straight on the axle. Then I pushed the front bearing into place and put the flat washer on top of that. Then screwed on the castle nut. I tried to not over tighten it so the wheel could move freely, but also nothing felt loose. Here's my new cotter pin that I'm placing on the axle to hold everything secure. I used needle nose pliers to fold one end over the front and cut the longer part off. Then I put the dust cap back in place and the wheel back on. I hand tighten the lug nuts first. Then I use a torque wrench to torque the lug nuts to 85 to 90 foot-pounds. This is easier if you put the wheel back on the ground so it doesn't spin. I cleaned up the wheel and done! And it rolls! And it's all ready for our next trip, probably to Home Depot.
What we learned. So ultimately, once I opened up these wheels and saw that the bearings still have plenty of grease, I realized I didn't have to repack the bearings, but I wanted to do it just for the experience of doing it. And I also bought a lot of extra supplies just in case I needed them. So I'm going to keep those because I might have to replace the bearings in the future. But basically, I inspected the bearings and they were in perfect condition, so there's no need to replace them. But I have those if I need them in the future. Now, a lot of people in the comments said I need to repack the bearings once a year. And so that's kind of why I wanted to experience repacking the bearings, but we don't use this trailer that often, so I don't think it's going to be necessary to actually repack them every year. I think it's going to be a good idea to check to see the grease is still all there, and we can easily do that by removing the front cover. But other than that, I don't know that we'll need to repack them on a super regular basis. Just keep up to date with maintenance and make sure everything's looking good. When I assembled the trailer last year and put the wheels on the hub assembly, I was having trouble with the torque wrench to get it. I couldn't hear the click. So I actually bought my own torque wrench this year, brand new torque wrench, and I still had the issue. Still could not hear the click. So these are as tight as they can be. But if you have any advice on torque wrenches, I've watched a bunch of videos. I don't know what I'm missing with that. And if you're wondering how the trailer has held up over the last year, I also made a video about that, and I'll put a link to that in the description. So thanks for joining. If you want to see more projects from us, be sure to visit us at motherdaughterprojects.com. All right, see you next time. Bye.